morning, everyone. In this subject of nanotechnology and surface engineering, so far we have talked about the basic requirement of the various scanning techniques and why these scanning techniques are important for nanotechnology and surface engineering. And in that one, we have started our discussion on scanning electron microscope. So generally the scanning electron microscope that use the high electron beam energy to uh, generate a image. Okay, and from this SEM analysis we are able to study about the topography and morphology. We are also able to about the chemical composition. We are also about to study crystallography, and we can study the orientation of materials. And we have briefly discussed the difference between the optical microscope and electron microscope. In that optical microscope we have a light source. Here the electrons which are used as the source. Here in optical microscope we have lenses, while here in the case of electron microscope we have a electromagnetic lenses. Then magnification can be done by the moving lens. Okay, while here the focal length that will change, and according to that we can get the magnification. Here we can use a eyepiece, and in this case we can use a fluorescent screen or digital camera. And finally the important difference is that the optical microscope which is performed in environment or no vacuum condition, while here the entire path from gun to the camera that must be under the vacuum, and that is the foremost requirement for this electron microscope. And then we have seen the uh, basic fundamental concept or basic principle how that SEM will work, and we also talked about the basic components of the scanning electron microscope. So the scanning electron microscope has a electron gun, it has a lenses, scanning coil, sample chamber, detectors, vacuum chamber, and aperture. So generally this electron gun, this is made up of a tungsten, okay, and it is having a low cost and easy maintenance. While this lanthanum hexaboride, it has a long span life, as well as it will give a brighter image, but it is costlier as compared to this tungsten filament. And finally this field emission gun, that is the best gun, but it is the most expensive. So that generally this tungsten filament which is widely used in an electron gun, and how this electron gun works, that we have already discussed. Then in lenses we have two types of lens, condenser lens and objective lens. So what that condenser lens will do, it will reduce the diameter of that electrons. Okay, this electron path will be reduced, and this objective lens that will be uh, create a image, or it will be pass it will pass certain amount of electrons which is according to this area. Okay, so this A by B, okay, this A by B means its focal length will change, and according to that focal length the amount of uh, electrons which is passing through this through the gap of this objective lens. Okay, and based on that the number of electron will pass and we can get the image. Then scanning coils. Okay, so in that one for a reduction of the means for reducing the size of that, what we have to do, we have to pass some uh, current, so that in that one we can have a coil, and that coil, that is known as a raster scan coil. Then to examine any object, we have to mount that sample on a some place, and that place is known as a sample chamber. and generally this sample chamber which is located at the base. Okay, so this is how it has certain motion, like it has a x motion, y motion, z motion, it has a tilting motion as well as it has a rotating motion. Okay, so this there are varieties of motions which is given to that sample chamber, so that we can exactly locate the beam where we require, and according to that we can get the image. Then detectors, so from that as the electron beam that will strike to the object, okay, various electrons that will be generated. Okay, so that will be a backscatter electron, okay, secondary electrons, x-rays, so all that electrons that will be detected. So there are certain detectors which is fixed into the sample chamber, and from that one we are getting some uh, form of the waves, okay, and that will be converted into a image. Okay, so this is how you can see this is the specimen chamber which is completely in the vacuum, and here this is the sample detector. Okay, and that is connected to the computer, and from that one we can get the image. And how this secondary electron detector will work, that what we have already discussed in our previous lecture. And finally, this is the vacuum chamber. So as we told earlier, whatever will be the work or this whole arrangement of this scanning electron microscope, that will be under the vacuum chamber, so that whatever be the path of the electron which not be obstructed by any foreign material, and that's why the whole electron scanning electron microscope that will be performed under a vacuum chamber. And finally we have a aperture. So aperture that is used to pass the uh, electrons through the series of that aperture, so that we can stop certain electrons, and from that we can get the desired image. So this is how we can these are the 7 components of the scanning electron microscope. So that what so far we have discussed in our earlier lectures. So today we are going to discuss that what are the signals that we can get from the sample. So as the electron will strike, as the beam electron that will strike to the uh, sample, and as it will strike to the sample, certain signal that will be generated. Okay, so signal means it is in the form of electrons, and that electron that will be detected, that's why it is termed as a signal that we get from the sample. So first we get is a secondary electron. So secondary electrons that are low energy electron with gives a high resolution. Okay, and surface signal depends upon the curvature. Okay, so what kind of signal that we get from the secondary, it is depends upon the sample preparation, what type of curvature we have as a surface of the sample, and based on that we will get a secondary electron. So this is the first sample that we signal that we get from the sample. Then second is a backscattered electron. That backscattered electrons are high energy electrons. Okay, these secondary electrons are the low energy electrons. These backscatter electrons are a high energy electron. And bulk signal depends upon the atomic number of the specimen. Okay, so that's how we can get that signal. Okay, the if the bulk signal, that will be totally depends upon the atomic number of that specimen. And third signal that we get is a X-ray. So longer recording time are needed. Okay, so to get that X-ray we have to we require a long time to notice it and absorb. It tells the chemistry of the sample. Okay, so that absorbed electrons, okay, electron absorbed electron that will tells the chemistry of the sample. Okay, so if you do not know the exact chemical composition or chemistry of the specimen, by using this X-ray we can identify the chemistry of the whole sample. And how we can get it? By the whatever the electron being absorbed by the sample, and based on that we are able to identify the chemistry of the specimen. So these are the three signals that we generally get from the specimen as the electron beam that will strike to the sample. So this is the identical diagram that this is the incident electron beam which is falling on the specimen. Okay, so here we have a specimen, and on that specimen at particular location we target the electron beam, and from that electron beam we get three types of signal: backscattered electrons, secondary electrons, and X-rays. Then in that one, some electrons which is absorbed by the specimen itself, okay, and some electrons that will be transmitted through that specimen. Okay, so these are the various electrons that we get, but these three electrons that we get, these are important to uh, identify the chemistry as well as to identify or to generate the image, because this from these three electrons we are able to generate the image by using that electrons and then convert it into some particular form. Okay, and from that one we are able to get the image. So as this electron beam that will strike with the specimen, we can get these backscattered electrons, secondary electrons, and X-ray electrons as a signal. Okay, so remember all these names: BSE, backscattered electrons, okay, SE, secondary electrons, and X-rays. Okay, so these three uh, electrons that we get as a signal from the specimen. Then if you see this diagram, here, as we told earlier, this is the low energy electrons. Okay, secondary electrons that are a low energy electrons. So as you see in this diagram, as this is the beam. Here we have a specimen. Okay, or this is the specimen. Simply this is the specimen actually. Okay, this is the specimen, and how these electrons that will go in deep. Okay, so that we will see. So here, as we know that, as you talked that secondary electrons, they are a low energy electrons. Okay, so they have a low energy. So as they will enter into that specimen, it will lose its energy and it will reflect it back, because it do not have a high energy, so that it cannot go in deep. Okay, but it can go up to certain limit, and as the energy will reduce, okay, they will come out. Okay, and that will be termed as a secondary electrons. So as the uh, electron beam that will strike with the specimen, first electrons that we get, that's these are the secondary electrons. Then as you know that backscatter electrons, they having a high energy as compared to these secondary electrons. Okay, so they may go more deep as compared to these secondary electrons, and then they will lose their energy, so that it will be come, so that electron output that will be termed as a backscatter electrons. Okay, so whatever the electrons that will come out from this level, okay, so that is a backscattered electron. And then we have a X-rays. Okay, so we can see here there are various different kinds of X-ray: characteristic X-ray, okay, fluorescent X-ray, continuum X-ray. Okay, so there are various category of X-rays that will be that will give us a signal based upon their energy. Okay, and still some electrons have a high energy, so that will be transmitted, and some electrons that will be diffracted. Okay, some electron that will be scattered. Okay, so and some electrons that will directly passing through that sample without affecting any of the electrons. Okay, so this is how the various signals that or where the electrons that will be scattered through that scattered through that specimen, and from that one we are able to get the various signals. Okay, so as we talked earlier that secondary electrons, they have a low energy, so that they will reflected back earlier, but it will give you a high resolution, because here the secondary electrons having a low energy, so that it will come quickly and it will give you the high resolution image of the specimen. Then we have a backscatter electrons, and based on that further transformation of the electrons, we have a characteristic X-ray, okay, fluorescent X-ray, continuum X-ray, and then some will be transmitted, scattered, and diffracted. So this is the uh, uh, transmission of or scattering of the electrons into the specimen. Okay, and if you see this diagram here, each atom each atom of the specimen has a certain uh, electron range. Okay, so as we talked earlier that here these atomic numbers, okay, as we told earlier that it is depends upon the atomic number. Okay, so that atomic number means as the number of electron higher, we can have this atomic number. Okay, so here whatever these yellow electrons, okay, whatever be these yellow electrons, means it is the main beam electrons. Main beam electron means it is the beam which is embedded to the specimen, okay, which is embedded to the specimen. Now as you know that this electron which is out of this range of this atom, that's why it will be directly transmitted. Okay, so here it is a transmitted electron. Okay, so as you know, here in this diagram some electrons are transmitted, means whatever that beam of the electron which is not being in touch with any of the, or it will not strike with any of the electron of the specimen, and it will transmitted, so that is the transmitted electrons. So here this is the transmitted electron. Now some electrons, okay, which having a high energy, okay, which having a high energy, so it will go back, it will lose in means it will embedded, then it will lose its energy and it will come, so that is the backscattered electron. And some electrons that will strike with the electrons of the atom, okay, this is the specimen electron, and the electron which we have embedded, it will strike with the uh, electron of the specimen, so that we can have the secondary electron, and from that one we have some X-rays, and that X-ray is known as a characteristic X-ray. Okay, so this is how we can get the secondary electron and the characteristics X-ray. Okay, so how we can get these different rays what we have talked earlier, secondary electrons, as we get, how we get the secondary electrons, because the whatever the electrons which is entering, okay, generally we know that all, suppose this is the beam, this is the beam of the electron, okay, and it has certain range of the electrons. Okay, now all these electrons which is entering into the specimen all have a same energy. Okay, when they are entering they have a same energy, but as this electron which is coming over here, sorry, this one, this electron which is coming over here, it will strike with this electron. As it will strike with the electron of the specimen, what happened, it will lose its energy. Okay, it will lose its energy, so that it has a, as we know, it is a low energy, that's why it is known as a low energy. Why it will it become of low energy, because it will strike, and as will it will strike with the electron of the specimen, it will lose its energy, and from that one whatever the electron what we get, that is the secondary electron, and from that one we get some X-rays, that is the characteristic X-ray. Now this electron which is not striking with any of the electron, okay, but it will lose its energy due to that atoms, or due to that high density of the object, so that it will reflected back, and that what we get, it is a backscattered electron. okay, and this is the electron, okay, which is not transmitted, or it is not means it is not reflected back, or it is not strike with any of the atom, and it directly transmitted. That is known as a transmitted electron. Okay, so here what is the required signals for us, that is the secondary electron, X-rays, and backscattered electron. Okay, so these are the three important signals that we require for our analysis or to generate the image. Okay, so this is the three signals that we get: secondary electrons, backscattered electrons, and X-rays. So why these images are visible? Okay, we have collected the electrons, but how these images are visible? Okay, so since the SEM image appears as if you observe an object with a naked eye, you may intuitively understand the features of the object. Okay, so that you can easily understand by the naked eye. But the SEM image often produces a contrast that is difficult to explain. So that is the most important thing. In the specimen, or in the specimen image, you want to get the contrast, okay, and that contrast which is often produced by this SEM image. If you see the optical image, in that one you will get the image, but that image, in that one you do not have a in detail depth, or the contrast in that same image which is not up to the mark, or which is not desirable, that we get in an optical microscope. But here in SEM image analysis, we are going to get a good contrast, and it is to fully understand the contrast of SEM image, you must understand the principle of the formation of the SEM image. Okay, and how these contrasts are generated into that SEM image, that you can understand only if you know the principle of the formation of the SEM image. So when the electrons enter the specimen, the electrons are scattered within the specimen and gradually lose their energy. So as we told in this diagram, as it will, as this enter into that specimen, they will lose their energy, and then they are absorbed into the specimen. Okay, so as they will lose their energy, they will be absorbed by the specimen. Okay, the scattering range of the electrons inside the specimen is different. Okay, the scattering range of the electrons inside the specimen is different and depends on the electron energy, the atomic number of the elements making up the specimen, and the density of the constituent atoms. Okay, so it will be the scattering range. It is depends upon three things: first, energy of the electron; second, atomic number of the specimen; and third, density of the constituent atom. Okay, so based on that three things, the whatever be the scattering range of the electron, that we can get. Okay, so here if the numbers of electrons are higher, okay, if the numbers of electrons of an atom, density of the atom is higher, then what happen? More number of electron that will strike to the electrons, so that more number of secondary electrons will be generated, and based on that we are able to get the high resolution, because as we know that here the high resolution that will be depends upon the secondary electrons. Okay, so based on that we are able to get the various uh, depth of the image. Okay, and as the energy is higher, the scattering range is larger. Okay, so the entering electron which is having a higher energy, so that we can have a large scattering range. And to the contrary, if the atomic number and density are large, okay, the scattering range is smaller. Okay, so why? If the atomic number and the density is larger, it has a low scattering range. So if you see in this diagram, it is a schematic diagram that illustrates the various signal emitted from the specimen when the incident electron beams enter the specimen. Okay, so this is the incident electron when it will enter into the specimen, whatever the output that we get. Okay, and the SEM uses this signal to observe and analyze the specimen surface. Okay, whatever this backscatter electron, okay, Auger electrons, secondary electrons, okay, X-rays, and all these things that will be uh, observed and analyzed by the SEM. And the SEM is not a simple morphology observation instrument, but a versatile instrument that is capable of performing element analysis and state analysis. Okay, so this is why these SEM analyses are very important nowadays to understand all the phenomena of the specimen. Okay, it will capable of performing element analysis as well as it will give the state analysis of this specimen. Okay, so by using all these electrons, this SM analysis, that is going to produce a image, and from that one we are able to get the uh, well depth image. Here we know that the energy distribution of the various electrons emitted by the specimen. Okay, so generally this secondary electrons which is having a, here it is having a range of energy, as we can see here, limited to 50 electron volt or less. Okay, but the energy distribution of backscattered electrons, here you can see this, the energy distribution of the backscattered electrons is very wide. Okay, and it will be uh, ranging from an energy equal to the incident electron energy, and it will be down to 50 electron, which is so far lower than the incident electron energy. Okay, so the incident electron which is having a very high energy, but the backscattered electron which have a very low energy. Okay, so that difference, that is the uh, that's play very important role in the visibility of a image. Okay, and small peaks that appears in the range of a backscatter electron correspond to a Auger electrons. Okay, so here this these small peaks, okay, that will be to the Auger electrons. Okay, so what are that Auger electrons? Auger electrons are here. This is the electrons that we get from the here. This is the Auger electrons. Okay, so this is how we can get the image from the SEM instrument. And if you see in this diagram, the electron gun, from that electron gun, we have a various incident electrons. Okay, and from that incident electron, some source of electrons that we get in the form of a backscattered electron or a secondary electron, okay, or X-rays, okay, in the form of a Auger electron, and all these electrons that will be absorbed by the various detectors. Okay, for to absorb all these electrons we have a various detectors, and from that detectors the signal will be transmitted, and then by use of a computer we are able to generate the image. Okay, so there will be some there will be generally three type of signal we can get: gray, white, and black. Okay, so depends upon the uh, transmittivity of the electron or received receivance of the electron from the detector, and based on that we can get the pulse. Okay, and from that pulse we are able to get the image. Okay, so this is how this image is produced by the SEM analysis. Okay, and simply we can also do the magnification. Okay, we can do the magnification because we have to magnify the image. Okay, so here the magnification, that is depends upon the ratio C by X. Okay, so here this is the resolution surface, and here we have this specimen surface. Okay, so what that ratio, and based on that ratio we are able to get the magnification of the specimen. Okay, so what is the incident area of that specimen, and what is the resolution that we are getting, and based on that we are able to get the magnification of the image. And the resolution is depends upon the size of the electron spot and wavelength of the electron. Okay, so the resolution of is totally depends upon the size of the electron spot. Okay, so where the electron is spotted, okay, or in which area that electron is spotted, and based on that the resolution will be obtained. Okay, and also the wavelength of the electron, it is a high wavelength electron, low wavelength electron, medium wavelength electron. Based on that we are getting the resolution, and it is also depends upon the size of the interaction volume. Okay, so interaction volume means how many electrons of that incident beam that will be interact with the electrons of the material, and based on that we are going to get the resolution. And this is the important thing, that before we perform SEM analysis we have to prepare the sample. Okay, so first we have to cut the sample. Then after cutting that sample we have to mount that sample on a uh, uh, platform, and then we can do a SEM analysis. For that one we have to do the rough polishing, okay, fine polishing, then cleaning, okay, then etching, and then we have to go for the analysis. Okay, so um, what is rough polishing? In rough polishing we are using abrasive sheet grinding. Okay, we can use silicon carbide course up to 60 micrometer, and for a fine it will be up to 120 micrometer. Okay, so by using this kind of grinding sheet or emery papers we are able to do the rough polishing. Okay, then after performing the rough polishing we will perform a fine polishing. So in that one, aluminum carbide diamond abrasive powders which are used to to polish that surface. Okay, so that is the fine polishing. Okay, now this aluminum carbide or aluminum oxide, zirconium oxide, these are the some of the powder which is used for a fine polishing. And after that we have to clean that surface. So we can use various solvents like acetones followed by ethanol or methanol, which is used to remove any undesired particles or any foreign particles, or to completely clean the surface. And then we are using the etching so that we can have a more contrast in the image. So that etching is done, and after that etching we can uh, we can see the specimen into the SEM, and that one, from that one we are able to get the image. So this is how this sample is prepared into that SEM analysis. So first we have to cutting it. Okay, and for cutting we can use cutting wheels. Okay, we can use wires, okay, with abrasive aluminum oxide abrasives and silicon carbide abrasives, or we can also use diamond abrasives to cut the specimen into the particular shape and size, and then we have to mount it. Okay, so for a mount we can use a compression mold, cold mount, or choice of epoxies which are available. Okay, so epoxies means various adhesives. Okay, so various, through that various adhesives we can fix that specimen on a platform. Okay, so this is how the sample is prepared for a SEM analysis, and generally the same procedure we have seen for the optical microscope also. Okay, so in this optical microscope we have certain shape. So there are certain similar steps that we have to follow while we prepare the sample for the SEM analysis. Now there are certain image distribution disturbances which occurs during the SEM. So why this happens? So that we will see. First is the lack of sharpness. Okay, the image which will not give you a sharp resolution. So why this happen? Because improper accelerating voltage setting, because that electrons that will strike with a high energy. Okay, and how it when it is possible if that electrons are accelerated, and to accelerate it we have to set a proper amount of voltage. So if it is not properly set, we can have this problem of sharpness. Then instability of gun emission due to low heat energy. Okay, so the tungsten filament which is not able to generate electrons because of the low heat energy. Then improper setting of objective apertures. Okay, aperture is not set in exact position. Then improper focal length, the A by B ratio, that what we have discussed, that is not perfectly set, so that the transmittivity of the electron that will be obstructed, so that we are not going to get a sharp image. Then too large magnification. If the magnification is very high, the sharpness of that image that will reduce. And the specimen charge up and magnetization. So this is also one reason due to which we are not able to get a sharpness into the image. So if you look into all these parameters and we set it properly, we can have a good image. Then second is a low image quality. So improper accelerator voltage setting, this is the same reason. Then improper contrast and brightness, so that we can have a low image quality. Then improper specimen preparation process. This is very important point, because if you do not prepare the sample well, you are not going to get a good image. So this is very very important, that before you perform any SEM analysis, you have to prepare the sample very well. Then and then you are going to get a good result. Otherwise, whatever your work, that will go into the vain, because if you have not prepared surface well, then definitely it is not going to give you a good image. So this is very important step to make a proper specimen. Then improper position related relation between the specimen and the detector. Okay, so what are the the electrons that is generated, that has to be detected. So the specimen and detector are positioned in such a way that the maximum amount of electrons that will be absorbed by the detector, so that we can have a good quality of image. Then noise. So improper accelerating voltage setting, then change up of specimen surface and mechanical vibration. Okay, and all these are the reason to generate a noise into the image, and we have a certain blur or improper image. Okay, so we have to reduce all this. And then image distortion and deformation. So how this is generated? Because electron beam damage. Okay, determination of specimen during preparation, and specimen charging up. Okay, so all these are the cause for image distortion and deformation. Your image that will be distorted, okay, or it will be deformed. So to reduce that, we have to take, or we have to focus on these elements, so that we can eliminate this problem. And these are the silent features of the SEM analysis, it can having a high resolution from 50 to 100 nanometer, okay, and it has a magnification range from 30x to 30,000x, okay, so it has a very wide range. It will give you a 3D image, okay, it is compatible with the PC, okay, it will give you a fast analysis, it can store the data, okay, and it is the most powerful and popular for a surface characterization. It will uses electrons, okay, and the sample preparation is easy. And what are the data analysis that we can get? We can get a topography analysis, the surface features of an object and its texture we can easily identify. It will give you a morphology analysis, so the shape and size of the particles making up the object. So all this morphology of the specimen that we can easily analyze by this SMA. Then composition, the element and compound that the object is composed of and the relative amount of them. Okay, so this is the totally chemistry of the object. We can easily analyze by this SEM. And finally, we can see the crystallographic information, how the grains are arranged into the object. So there is conductivity, electron property, strength that we can easily identify by using this crystallographic arrangement information, and from that one we can identify what will be the electric transmittivity or what will be the conductivity or strength of the object. Okay, so this is how what we the data we can analyze by using the SEM. Okay, so this is enough for SEM analysis, and when we will meet next time, we will see some other data analysis tool.